The millennials, which is the majority of our workforce, and by 2025, they will consist of 75% of the workforce. Millennials are kind of infatuated with this idea of entrepreneurship, but most cannot take on the financial or the emotional risks involved with being an entrepreneur. So if you can bring that entrepreneurial spirit within an organization, and they can feel like they're entrepreneurs without those financial or emotional risks, that's the corporate culture that you want to create within an organization. And it's actually, it leads to tremendous financial success.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we talk about putting your people first. When you make sure your employees are taken care of, it really is a game changer, and it unlocks opportunity inside the organization that you're just not aware of until you actually do it. Now, are there people out there that are looking to take advantage of the system? Absolutely. Hopefully you didn't hire those kinds of people. Hopefully you understood that your culture was a very important piece to the dynamics of the business, serving your clients, and actually to the bottom line. When you do that, you have the right people, but you as a leader have to step up and take care of those people. This whole episode is about taking care of employees. I'm with DeLinda Forsythe. She is the founder, CEO, and really a force inside innovative commercial environments. They go by ICE, and they've been on the Inc. list 7 times. What we talk about today is about the importance of people feeling taken care of and feeling safe, making sure that you are helping them develop the right mindset for success inside the organization. She talks about the entrepreneurial mindset, but it may be a little bit different for you. I've seen power with this entrepreneurial mindset, so I really feel like you could learn something from DeLinda talking about this today. We go through all the aspects that she has in our short time together to help you understand why putting people first and taking care of your employees is really the important piece to leadership. When you think about your own journey as a leader, make sure that you keep tuning into these episodes. If you have any questions about what your next step is, there's got to be a better way, then make sure you check out some of the resources we have at genehammett.com. If you want to have a conversation with me, I'd love to connect with you. Just go to Start Your Journey and you'll be able to register for time with me. It costs you nothing. And if you really want to expand yourself and be an extraordinary leader, then make sure you go to genehammett.com, start your journey. Now, here's the interview with DeLinda. Hi, DeLinda. How are you?
Excellent. How are you today, Gene?
I am fantastic. Excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I appreciate this opportunity.
Well, I want to kick this off, give the audience a little context around who you are. ICE is Innovative Commercial Environments. You've been on the Inc. list 7 times. You've had a tremendous run of growth. You've had a difficult year with COVID and everything. When you describe what you do, everyone will understand why you've had a difficult year. So go ahead and tell us about ICE.
Well, I started ICE in 2006 from a spare bedroom, and my goal was, as a single mother, to help my son achieve his educational aspirations. And I knew that was going to be really hard as a single mom. So fast forward to 2020, we have been on the Inc. 5000 7 times. Only 1.5% of US corporations have been on the Inc. 7 times. And as an office and hospitality furniture dealership, there's no other competitors on that list. And 2020 was particularly hard for us because nobody was coming into the office and nobody was really buying office furniture. Yet we still maintained incredible resiliency and stability in 2020. Early in the year, soon as COVID hit, we established a new goal of 0 layoffs. And we knew that was going to be really hard. We knew that keeping our workplace family, which is one of our 5 core values, keeping our workplace family together was going to be really tough unless we embraced what was going on with very clear-headed and attacked this year with an idea that it wasn't about being on the Inc. 5,000 again, because that was probably not going to happen. But keeping our family together. And that was our definition of success in 2020, was zero layoffs. And at the end of the year, we accomplished that. We all stayed together.
Fantastic. I'm sure that when people talk about offices and you sell office furniture and you do a lot of things around that, they realize that you had a tough year with your team. The fact that you're still together is a testament to strong leadership. I remember in the early days of COVID, I was collecting a lot of articles about, companies that were really putting people first, because I felt like it was going to be something I look back to. And I need to look back to that again, because I think Mark Cuban was one of those. It's like, short-term thinking is to lay people off and try to preserve everything. If you can, hold on to everything. I'm not saying profitability wise, it wouldn't have been the best choice for you to keep the people, but you had a value of the company and you've kept with it. And I think that's going to change the way they engage with you and probably rallied to help you through this period. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In 2019, I started trying to understand why we have been on the Inc. 5007 times. And it led me to a book, Conscious Capitalism. And it was co-written by Raj Sisodia and John Mackey. And they the conscious business enterprises aspire to 4 principles of conscious leadership, conscious culture. They value all stakeholders, which means their employees are as important as their customers, and they espouse a higher purpose that is about elevating humanity. It's not as much about profit. And in 2019, I don't know if you know this, but the CEO Roundtable redefined the purpose of an organization as not being about profit, but about all shareholders, and they call it stakeholder capitalism. So when we were looking at this in 2019, I started looking at this, and in 2020, when COVID hit, we were looking at how to really engage those principles of being a conscious business enterprise. And that's when we really were so lucky that we had already developed a very robust culture, a conscious culture, so that when we were all working remote, we could keep that culture going. It wasn't like we had to create something. It was already created. It was just about keeping us together, keeping the team together, keeping our culture strong, keeping engagement. And a lot of, COVID was very disruptive to the entire globe and to our organization. And I'm not going to downplay that. It was a tough year, but we got through it because we got through it as a team, as a family, as a tribe. And we didn't, we put the team first. It wasn't about profit first. It was about the team first. And that, that short-term thinking about, you got to lay people off. I mean, I know some of my competitors, like within weeks, they laid off 25% of their staff. They didn't even know where it was going. Yet that was their first solution, not their last. It was their first thing. And we did it by looking at our work, increasing profitability, reducing mistakes, staying on top of invoicing. I mean, every single department, we got our PPP loan. Every single department contributed to the financial stability of the company. And I know you believe in that entrepreneurial spirit, and that's one of our 5 core values. And everybody needed to, when they came to the office, see your name on that door, that you're responsible for keeping everybody employed. You're an entrepreneur.
How many employees do you have, DeLinda?
We have, I think it's 22 now.
You mentioned this entrepreneur spirit. I've talked about it before, but I think everyone has a little bit of nuance to that definition. If you think about a group of 22 people moving together and really encouraging this entrepreneur spirit, what does that mean for you as the leader of this company?
That's a great question, Gene. And entrepreneurial spirit is actually what we call intrapreneurial mindset. It's IN, intrapreneurial mindset. And that's a system that allows an employee to act like an entrepreneur within an organization. It's avoiding the financial responsibilities of ownership, but feeling like an independent entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs, they're self-motivated. They are action-oriented people who have leadership skills, and they think outside the box. And we really encourage that at ICE. And in 2020, that value took center stage. The millennials, which is the majority of our workforce, and by 2025, they will consist of 75% of the workforce. Millennials are kind of infatuated with this idea of entrepreneurship, but most cannot take on the financial or the emotional risks involved with being an entrepreneur. So if you can bring that entrepreneurial spirit within an organization, and they can feel like they're entrepreneurs without those financial or emotional risks, that's the corporate culture that you want to create within an organization. And it's actually, it leads to tremendous financial success too. I mentioned that Raj Sisodia was a co-author of the Conscious Capitalism book. Well, prior to that book, he wrote The Firms of Endearment. And he has this great chart, I'll have to share it with you, Jean, that shows that firms of endearment, conscious capitalists, are 14 times more profitable than the S&P 500. So if you're just looking to be profitable, put your employees first. Lead with this type of spirit, and you will actually be more financially profitable and more stable. And we've seen that 14 years now, almost 15 years that we've been in business. This year in September, it'll be 15 years.
You're probably not as familiar with my work as I have, because I've done so many of these interviews and I've spoken on the stage about this. My next book, After the Trap of Success, will be about this whole concept of having employees feel like owners, even if they don't have a financial stake. And that feeling of ownership is the core of everything that I see is how people engage and get work done. When you think of the leader that you've become, DeLinda, I know you've written a book recently and it's coming out a little later this summer. What's the one big idea inside that book that you've seen that has really connected with the people and allowed you to be the leader that you are today?
It is leading millennials. It's this focus on this intergenerational leadership model, and that everybody is a leader. It doesn't matter what your title is. Titles are irrelevant, and millennials really don't care about titles. They care about that you care about them, that they want to reach their potential, that they want, and you know what, and Jean, this is kind of, some CEOs might think that this is a downside. Some employees will want to leave and start their own businesses. And that's actually a good thing, because I want people to understand and to be able to attain this American dream that I've had, that I've been able to attain. So the key takeaway of the book is this: engaging all generations, and especially now with millennials, because like I said earlier, they're going to be 75% of the workforce in just a few short years. If you don't know how to lead millennials, I'm a boomer. And the way we were led, it does not work with this generation and the generation coming behind them, the Gen Zs, which started entering the workplace in 2019. That's really the key takeaway. And my book is Inspiring Generational Leadership, your guide to design a conscious culture. So inspiring generational leadership. And it's not just to inspire somebody to be the president of your company or to lead your company, but every position they're inspired to lead, to bring out new ideas, to be okay with failing, to be okay with saying something kind of dumb. I mean, I say dumb stuff all the time, and it's all right. And I think sometimes I don't think I consciously do this, but I will think I'll have a stream of consciousness where I haven't really thought it through, but I say it in front of everybody. And some of it doesn't stick. And some are like, wow, why'd you say that? That's not really how I think, or I don't think that's a great leadership idea at all. And we bat it back and forth, we debate it. And when I say things that aren't not necessarily the best ideas, then it gives them the opportunity, like, well, let me try an idea that may not stick. And there's a safety idea around that. Our higher purpose is creating space to transcend the ordinary. And what we do as an organization is we create physical spaces for our customers, for their employees to feel engaged at, where they feel it's a physical space for them to transcend the ordinary, and great collaborative spaces and great spaces to where they want to go to that work, especially now when after COVID, you want to create a physical space where your employees want to go to that workplace. But we also create a very safe emotional space for our employees, for them to show up where they feel safe. And that's really important, especially as a woman. I never had a safe emotional space as a woman, especially a single woman with a child. And you almost like you had to hide that you had these other obligations. Well, we don't do that at ICE. We've been working remote for at least 7 years, maybe. And that was we set that up because of one employee needed to work remote. And from there, we realized that, hey, this works. Let's just keep doing it. So it was kind of an easy transition for us last year. So I think the one key takeaway from the book, Inspiring Generational Leadership, Your Guide to Design a Conscious Culture, is this idea of intergenerational, non-hierarchical leadership, where everybody has the freedom to lead, the freedom to bring these ideas, and that it's safe. It's very inclusive organization.
Now, hold on. DeLinda just talked about creating emotional space for your employees. A lot of leaders don't think about this emotional space, but let me take you back to some research done by Google. Many years ago, Google was researching what makes the best teams, and they were looking at all the different factors, and they were really coming up with not a whole lot to grab onto. But when they finally were able to figure out what makes the best teams, it's a sense of psychological safety, which is giving them the space to give feedback without fear of judgment, giving them a place to grow and giving them a place to be nurtured, and giving them a place to engage with each other in healthy conflict. This psychological safety is something that you want to keep your eyes on and really create moments inside your leadership where you can actually do that. And you want to create more than just moments. You want to make it a part of who you are as an organization. You want people to be able to share with you without fear of really retaliation, that failure is okay. And a sense of psychological safety is an important factor to make sure you're intentional about as you grow into the leader your team deserves. Back to DeLinda. DeLinda, you said something like everyone is a leader. Now, I just got off the call. I do a workshop with a lot of companies around developing leaders inside of organizations. And I've said this before, and I get some resistance behind this, but when you treat your employees like everyone's a leader, no matter what the title is, what would we see inside of your conversations and your meetings?
Well, let me tell you about our staff meetings. I get really emotional when I talk about our staff meetings. Ooh, it's going to be hard for me to get through.
I feel like something good's coming.
Yeah, well, I think so. Maybe if I can get it out, something good will come. Is our staff meetings are really, really fun. And I talk about our staff meetings extensively in my book, because I think that's where you really cement your corporate culture. And in our staff meetings, and they just keep evolving and changing, and they're great. I think most organizations, that's like, oh, a staff meeting, how painful is that going to be? Where it's anticipatory at ICE, because we get to share ideas. And we even bring our introverts out in our staff meetings, where everybody has to share. Not every meeting has a different agenda and a different point and all of that. But this particular meeting that I'm going to talk about is a kind of like an ICE moment. And like, what was something great that happened to you? And everybody has to share this great thing that happened to them at ICE, so that you build a culture of gratitude and appreciation. Let's focus on something good, and let's let and encourage everybody to find their voice and to share their voice and to share their story. So we bring out the introverts on that particular day where they share their, their ICE moment. Last year we had share your COVID moment, which we had some really humorous stories. But back to this staff meeting, that's where we build a collective attitude of gratitude and appreciation. And I'll tell you my greatest moment on all these staff meetings that we've had for the last 10 years was when an employee was sharing how another employee found their mistakes and how appreciative they were of finding their mistakes, finding their failures, that we have developed this culture where we celebrate mistakes. Who does that? I had this vision when I started the company that it would be a safe place for women to work at, a safe place that women could achieve whatever they wanted, that they really could become the president of the company, lead this company, whatever position you want, you had an opportunity at ICE to achieve that simply because of hard work and a great attitude and a great mindset. And we'll help develop your skills. Most of the employees that came to ICE had minimal workplace skills, and we developed them and we coached them. So what I love about the work you're doing, Jean, as an executive coach, it's so important. We've got an attitude of coaching within our organization. We coach our people to be their best. And we do this for a lot of reasons. And it's not just leadership at work. It's leadership in the community. It's leadership as a parent. We have a lot of young parents that are coaching the next great generation of workers in the workforce, the US workforce. And when these employees come home and they feel empowered and they feel good about themselves, they're better parents, they're better spouses, they're kinder because they've been treated with respect. So I would say our staff meetings are kind of a great way to create that. And one last thing is, a few years ago it was a Thanksgiving staff meeting, and everybody had to go around and say what they're grateful for. And my husband, who had been with MetLife for 36 years, regional compliance, working with the worst of the people, just people that were kind of like the Bernie Madoffs, and that's what he had to work with in compliance. And he came to ICE and he brought all these Fortune 100 leadership concepts into the company. And we're going around and we're doing this gratitude exercise. And he'd only been with the company for maybe a month. And everybody is talking about what they're grateful for and they're crying. And we kind of do that in our staff meetings. We get very emotional and we can't help ourselves, but every single person it gets to him and he's saying what he's grateful for at ICE. And he starts choking up this New Yorker, that was there at 9/11 when the buildings were falling down. He's getting choked up.
DeLinda, you share all this with me, and it really makes me think about how important that your people are to you. But this is not just in your organization. This is really across all fast growth companies that I've seen. They truly care about the people. You've shared some incredible stories and examples of this. I appreciate you being here on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jean. And I hope my ideas and thoughts and words will make people understand how valuable people are and the opportunity that business has to elevate humanity. Thank you so much.
So I want to wrap up this and give you my take on DeLinda's view of what's going on inside her company that creates this consistent growth even through hard times. And it may challenge what you think leadership is, because most people think leadership is managing the work, getting it done. But here's the reality of it. Great leaders know that the work gets done by building up the people, making that safe space for them, creating a place of transparency where they feel heard, appreciated. You want to be that kind of leader. If you feel like there's some skill gaps, if you feel like there's things that you just don't quite have a grasp on, I want to make sure you know that you can reach out to me. I'd love to help you. All you have to do is go to genehammett.com. You can click on the button that says Start Your Journey, which is really about you stepping up and saying, I want to be an extraordinary leader. If you feel like it's right for you, I'd love to talk to you, get to know you. If it's a fit, I'll invite you to work with me in one of my programs. You might want to join my one-on-one. You might want to join the group program where we go racing Porsches and we do a lot of fun stuff together. But I want to start with that conversation. Just go to Start Your Journey. When you think about leadership and you think about growth, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.